Hi Jude, hi. This video today that we're recording today to show everybody is going to be showing your journey about how you offer help to people going through grief after losing a child. So first of all, can you just introduce yourself, please? Just introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Jude Hill, founder of Sadness to Sunshine, life after loss mentor and energy coach, and I empower bereaved parents to transform their lives and be happy again.
Wonderful, thank you. And tell me, what led you into this kind of work? How did you get into all of this? Why do you offer this help to people?
So 26 years ago, I lost my son Adam, aged just 4, to cancer, and as people can probably imagine, just my world was devastated. So you have to try and cope with what you're thrown at. So obviously being very young then, what I didn't realise at the time was I was bottling up a lot of emotions. So I sort of thought, well, I've got to get on with things. So I went back to work because it was 8 hours a day where I could focus on something else and not be trapped in all those negative emotions and thoughts. Obviously I went home to that. And then at the time, my friends used to take me out of the weekend because none of them had kids. So they didn't know what to do or say. So I ended up drinking a bit too much at the weekends just to be able to, you know, live life as such. And then um, just kept pushing through, really. A few years rolled on. And then I did move on to into a new relationship, and I had 2 other children. So I sort of thought, as far as you can, I had moved through my grief, and I thought it was, you know, behind me.
Yeah.
I'd shared with my sons, their brother, so they knew all about him. So he was still part of our family, he was still included. And then a few years ago, I just had a resurgence of this grief, couple of instances, and then a big trigger at a social media workshop I attended, where I ended up finding myself in tears, and it was
Oh,
suggested that I go and maybe seek some help. But even then I thought, well, what can anyone do? They can't give me the one thing that I want, my child back. You can't get those years back, so what good would talking about it with a stranger do? So I bottled it all up again, until I found myself on another workshop in November of the same year, and found myself saying at the beginning that one of the things I wanted to do was to be able to talk about my son Adam without being in floods of tears. And at that point I was in floods of tears. So short version is, we actually used the energy alignment method techniques that were being applied that weekend, and I actually emotionally and physically released the grief and sadness that I'd been holding on to for 20 plus years.
wow. And so this was your journey. This was the beginning of your healing, and you're managing it. And would you call it managing, or being on top of it, or gone past that story, or how would you feel? How would you describe
Yeah, I
the
think it's
better
something
feeling?
like that. It's always part of you. You just think that, but you just, work your life around it as such, sort of thing, and, just get on with things as best you can because of things that have happened. And I had done that in a big way. But then after this major release at this weekend retreat, they said, what would I want for another parent in that situation? So through a sort of happy tears, then I was like, I just want them to be happy, which sounds a bit mad because you think you've had probably one of the most devastating experiences you can have in life. So how can you turn that into being happy? Um, and then I explored. So I did some Google research while I was there because the internet wasn't around when I lost my son. So I didn't have access to some of the things that the parents have now. But to be quite honest, when I did that Google research and things that I've read and since then, at that point when I was at my lowest, when I just didn't really know how I was going to, get up the next day, let alone anything else to a degree, if I'd have seen that, there wasn't any hope, because I had that thing at the time, I think, where I was only 24. I remember one of those moments where I just thought I cannot live in this excruciating pain in the next 40, 50 years. It's just too unbearable. So it was that pushed me through. But yeah, reading all these things that, you know, the messages were coming across that you never get over it, you know, you're stuck in this sadness and grief forever, and it's all this downward spiral. There was nothing for hope that, you know, you are still here, you've still got people around you that care. You know, a lot of people have got other children, so it's all about, you know, being as present as you can for yourself, other children, you know, partners, your own parents, etc.
And how to do that. And is that what you found when you searched for help at that time, when you were going through healing and coming out of it, feeling happier? Is that what you found on the internet then? The general sort of gist of things, of offers for help, was you have to live with your grief.
Yeah, all of the blogs seem to, you know, be like that, you know, you never, you know, and there's always that small piece of you that dies. But now I know that, you know, releasing it, and that's what's different about the way I work, because I work, you know, my own healing that I'd done prior to that was much more on a mental level. It was sort of positive self-talk that I didn't even realise was positive self-talk at the time, just thinking things like, at least he's not suffering anymore, and things like that, to, you know, just be able to move to the next phase. But it was just like what I refer to now as like a positivity band-aid, just sticky plaster over it, because I wasn't actually looking at the deep emotions and all the things linked with those, but actually energetically releasing those emotions. All your life experiences are all held in your aura, because that's something that I work with as well. And even if, you know, they're deep in your subconscious, they're still there. And actually most of our lives are run by our subconscious mind rather than our conscious mind all of the time. So dealing with it from that much deeper level, you can literally let go of that. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, that I actually feel closer to Adam now. I can just zone in, just be quiet and connect, and feel, you know, his presence around me, you know, his soul connection, as I call it, than when I used to go and sit by the graveside, because that just used to make it more obvious to me that he wasn't there and didn't really give me any comfort.
And you mentioned about when you found what was being offered, like just live with it, and you're never going to get rid of it. And you mentioned how, you know, that was the only help that you found, that you might not have got over it if that was the only resources you had, or the only guidance you had. So you mentioned about you wanted parents to be just happy, and what was the trigger that made you want to help people? What was, I mean, was it from that, or was it
So yeah, it was suggested at that weekend, and then I did that initial bit of Google research, and then I come home and looked around to what else, and I just thought, it cannot be that message. It's got to be that they've still got hope for themselves, and, you know, everyone else that's still physically here with them. And it's not, another thing I've experienced, and what my clients have initially said to me, they've been not wanting to let go of their sadness, because to them that feels like they're letting go of their child. And it's another thing that said that, you know, a mother's grief shows the strength of a mother's love, but it doesn't. What I believe is when your child dies, whatever age they are, their soul goes off, so their soul is still there, and that's vibrating at a really high level. So if you stay stuck down in the grief and depression and feeling powerlessness, you're never going to be able to reconnect with them. But actually raising your own energy and your own vibration and working on yourself, then, like I do now, you can actually you know, connect in your heart with them, and they're still there. There's loads of other things that you can do as well. And it was really, the key for me was looking back at my life. I thought I had been living the last 20 odd years at that time, but when I looked at it, I'd done better than, you know, some people, because I had, you know, moved on. I'd been able to share Adam with my other two children, but there was still bits of me that hadn't fully released things, so I wasn't fully living and, you know, even being present in some ways for them. So I just want you know, someone else to live their own life to their full potential and get everything out of it that they can.
Wonderful. So it gives them real hope, and they can be happy, and they can really connect to their lost child.
Yeah, it's definitely, that's a real big inclusion. I mean, I've done it in some ways with my boys, and when I launched my book last year, you know, their reaction at the book launch and how they are, you know, and they've never even had a physical connection with him. So, you know, that's another sort of, you know, proof point to me that, you know, you know, they've never physically met, but they've got that soul connection being part of the family, and the memories I was able to share with them. So, you know, that's what I want for the other families. Your child's still going to be part of your family, but you're going to do other things, you know, with the family that's still physically here, and get your full enjoyment out of those things that you're doing.
And I guess you're going to get understanding and support when you share what's in your heart and in your experience. They can understand why mum is like this, and they have knowledge and understanding.
It's a big thing. I mean, I work excuse me, I work with a 4Cs system that I've worked out. So the first one of that is care. So it's caring for yourself first of all, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, whatever that means for you. So you're starting with you. And then intertwines its communication and connection. So, you know, that's another thing with grief, and other big things that happens is it does split up a lot of marriages or partnerships, because the mum and dad will grieve differently, and then that will set other triggers off, etc. So, you know, the more you can actually, you know, it's hard to communicate sometimes, but the more you can be communicative with each other, then the greater connection you can lead to. And then once you've worked through all of that, the 4C is to create. So it's creating the new life ahead. You can't have the original life that you dreamed of, you know. Like for me, Adam never went to school. I never had those years, or the teenage years, and, you know, he'd be 30 now, so potentially getting married and having grandchildren and that. But if I dwell on what I couldn't have, I choose to focus on what I had, the wonderful 4.5 years that I had with him, and the connection that I've had since then.
Oh, beautiful. And so, so tell me a little bit more about, so how you developed a program called Life After Loss program, and tell me a little bit more. I mean, how does that work? Is it in a group or one-on-one, or what? How, if somebody would work with you to help them cope with their grief and get them to that hope and happiness stage, how does the actual program, how do you help them?
So people can choose. There's two options. They can work one-to-one with me, or I run in small groups of 6 to 8 parents, and that really works really well, because it's that common sharing. Although they may be there from different things, they've got that one key thing that ties them together, and you do just become really close and really bonded because of what you're sharing there. So and across those 6 months, we work with you, so starting again with you first of all, getting your energy levels up. So I work with things like your chakra elements and that, so working through that just to get your own energy and vitality up, because for some people just getting out of bed in the morning is difficult, you know, they've lost all motivation. And then we move on to that, to looking at, okay, what thoughts are causing you to stay stuck in that lower vibration and stay stuck with those. And then we look at the transforming those thoughts. So how can you think about that differently? Then we look at raising your emotions up, so getting you out of those places where maybe, you know, they're angry over why their child isn't here, or, you know, with someone dependent on the circumstances of what happened, or they're just stuck in that depression state because they can't see any further. So we work in at moving you up what we call the emotional scale, so up to feeling, you know, calm and content, and then eventually up to higher emotions of happiness and finding some passion in life again. And then we look at relationships in great deal, so you need to look at your own stuff first.
But you mentioned about the divorce rate of lost children is extremely high.
Very high between couples that have lost a child. So
you look at relationship elements in the next stage.
And once you look at yourself, just how you're reacting differently can then change how the other person's reacting, because it's all energy. It's the energy connection between you. So even if you're not speaking certain things, that energy is still going on
Feeling it.
within that, and people go off. And so we look quite deeply in that. So, you know, that can be quite a major thing for most people. But when you've had a, you know, a trauma within a relationship, then, you know, there's even more to look at. And then it's the relationship of your children. If you've got other children, the technique I work with is really good at sharing with them as well. So then, you know, they can release what's going on for, you know, their pain as well. So you can actually help them
Wonderful.
move forwards. And
The
then
whole family and the relationship with their partner,
so you
the
actually
relationship with
then you
themselves.
then at the end of it we look at, okay, we've, you know, we've worked through all of this, so how are we going to bring that love and joy back into your home? You know, what are we going to create? So there's the right memories there, so your child is still included as part of the family and part of the home, but in a more joyous, happy way, rather than, you know, in
So,
times
so
of
there, so
sadness.
there, so there are 3 or 4 stages of specific focuses to get them through. And so you mentioned they can either work one-to-one with you,
Yeah.
or they work as a small group together. So this would be something they could discuss with you and chat what would be the right way going
Yeah,
forward.
that's what I do. I always have a call with someone first that's looking into this, so I can find out a little bit more, see if it's the right fit for them. And then
Wonderful.
the weekly calls are done via, like we're doing this Zoom interview, so they're done exactly the same way. So they don't even need to leave their home. They're in their own safe, comfortable environment, and we just get on a call like this, and, you know, just
And
like
what,
we're chatting, they
and
would
would that be, so if they're one-to-one with you, it could be like this, like on a Zoom or something like this, or if it's a group, it would be the same sort of thing. The whole group would be here if it's a group.
That's it, yeah. The whole group would be there, so people can share what's going on for them. They can ask any questions, share something they're struggling with, and then we'd work with it. And then within the group environment, I do a few one-to-one sessions spread through across the 6 months as well. So they get that dedicated time to really focus on what's going on for them at that moment and help release that.
And is it all a 6-month program with a one-to-one or the group? It's all a 6-month.
The one-to-one can be a different length of time, because it depends what works best for the client, how often, you know, we need that. We might meet a bit more regularly, so it might be in a shorter space of time where it's condensed. But yeah, the 6 month is a set program across there, but we meet once a week like this on Zoom, and then there's a Facebook support group as well, so anytime each day they can
And
ask
Facebook support
questions
group.
in there. Yeah.
Okay, so the length of the one-to-one you can discuss it and find what's the right, what's appropriate for that person. Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the technique. So what's your clinical background? What's your professional background, or what is the technique? You mentioned the technique. I mean, you've put together a beautiful program, it sounds like. But what is it like a talking thing, like psychological thing, or is it EAM, or what's the?
Yeah, so obviously I use my own experience and what helped me across the years, but the releasing part is using the energy alignment method, which I'm actually, it's quite a new modality, and I'm one of the first 30 mentors in the world that can actually use that. So we go on our own journey of 10 months deep work on ourselves, and then we do our mentoring journey following that. So we've gone on quite an extreme journey ourselves, going quite deep, so that we can support the people that we work with using that. But it's quite simple, and that's the other good thing. You don't necessarily need to go deep into the trauma of what happened. You just need to find out sometimes that it was something to do with what happened. You know, sometimes it's really clear and it's an obvious memory that they've got at the time, but it can be other things that can be linked as well. So you might just find out that it was something that happened when you were age 10 that's in your subconscious that you're not even aware of, and then we just use a simple 5-step process for releasing that, and then we always align to what the positive affirmation of that
So
is.
so it's a nice simple process
Mm.
and very effective. And so what sort of results from working with you or working with the group or using this technique EAM, what can they expect to feel going through this with you, or what can they expect? What would be different for the people going through this program, the Life After Loss program with you?
So it's something that they can use for themselves as well. So although we work together with the technique to begin with, so anytime if they are triggered by anything, they can actually use the simple 5-step process to work on it. And by the time you've done the 6 months, you're really, understanding it for yourself. So it's something that you can work on. But basically working with that, they get their energy and vitality back, because you're really balancing your body and getting your body system back into that, your nature's reboot, if you like, from that. And then it's looking so you're not so emotionally triggered by that. We all have, even things happen to me, sometimes, sort of thing, don't get me wrong, I'm not flying a perfect thing where I'm that all the time, but when something happens, you've got that way of being able to deal with it, so you can bring yourself energetically back from that lower feeling back up into that higher state, so you're not going to get that balance. And the other big thing is the relationship. So one of the clients I work with, and the relationship with her children, I think that was the key thing that actually made her seek help. So one day her husband had come home from work, she'd gone into the bedroom to cry and have some time on her own and just let it all out, because she'd been sort of holding on to it all day whilst looking after her daughter. And then she heard her daughter say to her husband, well, mummy always be sad and crying. And she thought it wasn't affecting her daughter, because she thought, I've gone in the bedroom, I've shut the door, that's me having my time, it wasn't affecting them. But kids pick up on it so much, and that is one of the key things that people have come forward and spoke to me about. So that made her search and look for help, and now she's just so fully present. And it's not that she's let go of her son or anything, she's just worked on herself, so she's got that stronger connection with him. But because of her strength now, she's just so present and is having that fantastic relationship with her daughter, and it's just brought her and her husband closer together. So it's not, before it was pushing them apart, where they were both trying to do their own ways. He was going out to work, earning the money, coming back, then having to try and still be strong and deal with that, so he couldn't let his stuff out. But now they're just really close, and they've really got a fantastic relationship. And then another client of mine, she'd lost one of her twins at birth, and she always had a trigger whenever she was out and she saw twins anywhere. She just sort of had to run away from it and couldn't face it. But after we worked together, she was with her other daughter at a creative arts thing once, and this group of several twins come in from a school or somewhere where it was, and normally she would have just had to have run out of there, got out with her daughter. Her daughter would have missed out on the afternoon of creativity they were doing. But she just like took a few deep breaths, and because she let that go before, she wasn't triggered by it like she was before, so she was able to have that lovely afternoon there and be present with her daughter and not be affected. So it's just,
so it doesn't
total difference.
Total difference. So it didn't stop her thinking about her lost twin, but because she'd already released it, already worked on it with the EAM with you to help her through addressing those difficult feelings, so she was now able to be with the twins, whereas before she would have had to leave.
Yeah, and she actually, one of the big things that I remember, she'd had a photo taken of her other little baby when she lost, and she'd never been able to put that up or share it with anyone because it was just too painful. But yeah, I remember when she posted that in the group and shared that with the others, that's how strong you feel at that point, that you can trust them and share the deep things.
A massive difference. And it's all about sort of raising the energy, feeling differently about present situations, but not letting go of your loved one at all, actually bringing them into your heart and connecting in a lovely way, a big way. But being able to go forward and be present, so that your present relationships are healed too. So it's not just you, but everyone around you, your nearest and dearest, and your other children, if you have those, or your partner. And so it's not just helping you, but them, the whole family.
Yeah.
So so you mentioned that you offer different support, so one-to-one, and then the group is for 6 months. You take them through these 4 C's and teaching the EAM so they can feel those things and become those better vibration feelings. And and you mentioned the Facebook group, the free Facebook group. They can come in there and discuss and share.
Yeah, Sadness to Sunshine support group for bereaved parents. So anyone can join that free, and I do share other basic tips and basic information with them. But you know, you think you've got an idea of that, but it's just that difference when you work with someone. Yes. That really, you know, fully brings it out and, you know, can help you through the difficult times where if you were on your own, you'd possibly give up at that point. But, you know, you need someone to bring you out. But once you've been, you know, in that container, if you like, for that 6 months and been held, and, you know, you've got so used to doing it, then it's second nature. Then you just automatically, you know, have something come up, and then you can think, oh, I can EAM on that. So it's just, you know, as simple as when you just go and think, oh, I need to brush my teeth now, you know, it's just something you do. It just becomes natural part of life, and as you say, it affects everyone in the family as well.
So the emotions don't overwhelm them, change their behaviour in the present day. It's going to be completely different, completely is in control. Would that be the right word? In control, to address the situation immediately, so they're feeling better, more presence, and open to, you know, relationships around them, and still feeling the love for their lost one. And that's not gone at all.
That's it. No, that's just heightened. That's just stronger than what it was before. So
beautiful. Okay, and if they want to get in touch with you to explore whether working with you would be the right thing for them and how it would work for them, you mentioned different timings for the one-to-one, and perhaps if they're interested in the group, or they want to come into the Facebook group.
So people can just search on Facebook for Sadness to Sunshine support group and request to join that. I'll put a link out with this video so that they can actually book a free, no obligation call with me, so we can just have a chat like this, find out where they are at the moment, what's going on for them, how they would like their life to change, and then have a little trial bit of EAM and see if, you know, moving forward in either a one-to-one or a group setting would be the right thing for them.
Fantastic. That's wonderful, Jude. Thank you so much. And I'm sure this is going to help so many people, that there is sadness to sunshine. There's sunshine after such a sad situation. And you're living proof of that, and of the people who've taken through that already, through the groups and the one-to-ones and in the Facebook group. So thank you so much. And if you do want to get in touch, we're going to put the links to this video and post it with this video. So do get in touch with Jude if you feel resonance with this, what Jude is talking about, and if this is you think it might help you, there's a no obligation call to get in contact with Jude. Okay, thank you so much, Jude.
Okay, thanks very much.